In 1980, millions of people across the United States carried a simple silver-colored coin without giving it a second thought. It was a Washington quarter worth just 25 cents, commonly used for parking meters, gumball machines, arcade games, or payphones. But what most people never knew was that hidden among those ordinary coins were rare mistakes, minting errors, and unique variations that today are worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Some collectors claim that a few of these coins have sold for more than a brand new car, all because of tiny details most people would completely overlook. The story of the 1980 quarter is not just about money. It's about how something so common can secretly become valuable. How a coin that passed through thousands of hands could suddenly turn into treasure, only if someone cared enough to look closely. The 1980 quarter was minted in two main locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The coins from Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark at that time, so a quarter with no letter means it was struck in the Philadelphia Mint. On the other hand, quarters with a small letter D on the right side of Washington's portrait were made in Denver. Most of these coins were produced in huge numbers, with more than 600 million pieces coming from each mint. That's why most people assume that a 1980 quarter can't be rare. But that's where they're wrong. Rarity is not always about low mintage. Sometimes it's about finding perfection in a sea of imperfection, or finding the right kind of imperfection that turns a mistake into a collectible masterpiece. Imagine holding a 1980 quarter that looks different. Maybe the rim is unusually thin, or the coin appears slightly off-center. Maybe George Washington's face looks doubled, as if someone printed it twice. Maybe the coin sounds strange when dropped on a table, almost like it's made of pure silver. These are the kinds of details that catch a coin expert's attention. These are the clues that reveal a hidden fortune. One of the most valuable types of 1980 quarters is the one known as a double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once, but slightly misaligned, creating a shadow-like effect on the letters or the design. If you take a magnifying glass and look closely at the words "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," and you see doubling on the letters, you might be holding a rare double die coin. Some of these have sold for more than $1,000, depending on condition. Another rare type is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank metal disc is not placed properly under the machine, causing the design to be printed visibly off to one side. The more dramatic the shift, the more valuable the coin. If the design is missing more than 30% of the normal layout, but the date is still visible, collectors go crazy for it. A 1980 quarter with a strong off-center strike has been known to sell for several $100s or more. Then there's the holy grail of error coins, wrong planchet strikes. The metal disc used to make quarters is called a planchet. But sometimes, by mistake, the mint accidentally uses a blank mint for another coin, like a dime or a 1-cent piece. Imagine seeing a quarter-sized design on a smaller, thinner metal disc. That's a rare wrong planchet strike. A 1980 quarter struck on a dime planchet is smaller and lighter than usual. Some have sold for more than $2,000 at auctions. There's also the possibility of finding a 1980 quarter struck on a pure copper penny planchet, which makes it appear brown or reddish instead of silver. If you ever find a 1980 quarter that doesn't look like a normal quarter, don't ignore it. You could be holding treasure. But the most surprising part of the 1980 quarter story is that even ordinary-looking coins with no visible errors can still be worth money if they are in near-perfect condition. Most quarters from 1980 were heavily used, banged around in pockets, scratched by coins, and worn down by years of handling. That's why finding one in flawless, mint-state condition is almost impossible. But if someone kept one safe from day one, untouched, preserved as if it were brand new, that coin could be worth a fortune today. One such 1980 D quarter was graded MS 67 by a professional coin grading company. That means it was nearly perfect, with sharp details and a brilliant shine. That coin sold for more than $1,000. Another 1980 P quarter, also in pristine grade, was sold for over $800. Not because it was rare, but because it was perfect. Coin collectors are willing to pay big money for perfection. So how can someone identify whether a 1980 quarter is worth more than face value? First, look at the mint mark. If there's a D, it's from Denver. If there's no letter, it's from Philadelphia. Both can be valuable, so don't ignore either one. Next, check the condition. If the coin is shiny, with no major scratches or wear, it might be worth sending to a grading company. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Coins rated MS, 65, or higher are considered investment quality. Then, check for errors. Use a small magnifying glass or even your phone's zoom camera. Look closely at the edges. Are they even? Or is the coin cut strangely? Look at the letters and numbers. Do they appear doubled or distorted? Does George Washington's face look unusual? Flip the coin and check alignment. Hold it upright, then flip it vertically. If the back is not aligned correctly, that's a rotated die error. Even that can bring in collector's interest. Lastly, weigh the coin if possible. A normal quarter weighs 5.67 grams. If the weight is significantly different, you might be looking at a wrong planchet strike. Any difference of more than 0.2 grams is worth investigating. Some people laugh at the idea of searching through old change. They think treasure hunting is only for pirates or people digging in ancient ruins. But in reality, modern treasure is hiding in plain sight, right inside pockets, drawers, and coin jars across the country. The 1980 quarter proves that history is not just something kept in museums. It's something you can touch, something that might be sitting on your desk or falling between your couch cushions. Every coin has a story. Some tell stories of presidents and politics. Others tell stories of mistakes, accidents, and moments when humans and machines misaligned, creating accidental masterpieces. So the next time you hold a 1980 quarter, don't just spend it without thinking. Turn it over. Study it. Look for the details others ignore. Maybe it's slightly off-center. Maybe the letters look doubled. Maybe it's unusually shiny, as if it never aged. Or maybe it feels lighter or heavier than normal. If something feels different, trust your instincts. That small feeling could be the sound of opportunity knocking. Some people spend their whole lives buying lottery tickets. Others scroll, endlessly hoping for quick riches. But smart people know that wealth often hides in the simplest places. Sometimes, all it takes is curiosity, patience, and a little bit of knowledge. A simple 1980 quarter, worth 25 cents to most people, could be worth thousands to the right collector. Not because of luck, but because someone cared enough to look closer. Whether you're a seasoned coin hunter or someone who just discovered this world, the lesson is clear: never underestimate the value of everyday objects. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often just awareness. So go ahead, check your change, dig through your drawers, open that old jar of coins your grandparents collected. Who knows? Maybe the next valuable 1980 quarter is already in your home, just waiting to be discovered. And when you find it, you'll remember this moment. The moment when a simple story turned into a real treasure hunt. The next time you hear the clinking sound of coins, don't just think of spare change. Think of history. Think of hidden value. Think of the 1980 quarter, the coin that proved that even the most ordinary things can hold extraordinary secrets. In 1984, millions of people used a simple copper-colored coin without ever looking at it twice. It was the Lincoln Memorial penny, a coin so common that it passed unnoticed through countless pockets, purses, cash registers, and piggy banks. Yet hidden among these ordinary pennies were rare mistakes, tiny errors almost invisible to the naked eye that would one day be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. What once paid for bubblegum or arcade games could now be traded for rent, groceries, or even a brand new phone. That's the story of the 1984 penny. A coin so familiar, yet so overlooked. A coin that teaches us that even the smallest piece of change can carry history and fortune. The 1984 penny features the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front, with the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But not all 1984 pennies are created equal. Some were born with flaws, imperfections so rare that they transformed these tiny copper-coated discs into prized collectibles. And among all error pennies from that era, none is more famous than the 1984 doubled-ear penny. Imagine looking at Lincoln's profile and noticing something strange, an extra earlobe. Not a scratch, Not damage, but an actual doubling in the metal, as if someone carved two ears by mistake. This error was not caused by wear or damage. It happened at the mint itself during production. This type of error, known as a double die, occurs when the machine that impresses the design onto the coin strikes it incorrectly, leaving a ghost-like second image. In the 1984 penny, this doubling appears specifically on Lincoln's ear. When collectors discovered this, they went wild. Suddenly, people everywhere were pulling out magnifying glasses, flipping through jars of pennies, checking every 1984 coin they could find. Some lucky individuals found one. Others found several. And those who knew what they were looking at made real money. A single 1984 doubled ear penny has sold for over $1,000 in high-grade condition. Even worn examples can sell for $50 to $200 because of the rarity and popularity of this error. All because of one tiny extra ear. But that's not the only treasure hiding in 1984 pennies. There are off-center strikes where the design is visibly shifted to one side. There are die cracks, where raised lines appear like lightning bolts across the coin surface. Some pennies have cuts, areas where part of the coin's design is missing due to a broken die, leaving a blob of extra metal. Others were struck on foreign or experimental planchets, making them look thinner or darker than usual. And then there are condition rarities, pennies so perfectly preserved that collectors are willing to pay big money just for their shine. Most 1984 pennies are scratched, dirty, or discolored from decades of use. But a few were saved from circulation, tucked away in rolls or coin sets, never touched by human hands. If one of those coins receives a high grade like MS 67 or MS 68 from a professional grading company, its value skyrockets. Some of these perfect 1984 pennies have sold for hundreds of dollars, even without errors. Because in the world of coin collectors, perfection is just as valuable as rarity. But before understanding why the 1984 penny can be so valuable, you need to know what makes it different from earlier pennies. Before 1982, pennies were made almost entirely of copper. They weighed 3.11 grams and felt solid in the hand. But due to rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint decided to change the composition. Starting in 1982, pennies were made with a cheap zinc core and only a thin layer of copper on the outside. They weigh only 2.5 grams. And that means something important. If you find a 1984 penny that weighs more than 2.5 grams, you might be holding a rare wrong planchet error, perhaps a leftover copper planchet from 1982 that was accidentally used. Those can sell for big money. Even a small difference in weight can make a big difference in price. So how do you check if your 1984 penny is valuable? First, look for the doubled ear. Hold the coin under a light and tilt it slightly. Focus on Lincoln's earlobe. If you see what looks like a second lobe beneath the first, even faintly, you may have the famous double die. Next, check for off-center strikes. If part of the design is missing or shifted, that's a good sign. The more the design is off-center, as long as the date is still visible, the more valuable the coin can be. Then examine the coin for cracks or raised lines. These could be die cracks or die breaks, both of which are collectible. Flip the coin and check the rim. If part of the rim is thicker or missing, that could be a clip planchet. Weigh the coin if you can. A normal zinc-based 1984 penny should weigh 2.5 grams. If yours weighs 3.1 grams, you may have a copper error. Even a slight difference could be worth investigating. Finally, judge the condition. Does the coin look clean? Shiny? Does it still have its original mint luster? Even without errors, a flawless penny can fetch more than you'd expect. The beauty of coin hunting is that it requires no special tools, no huge investment, and no experience. All you need is curiosity. Some people spend money chasing lottery tickets. Others spend time hunting rare pennies. And often, the penny hunters win more often than the lottery players. Imagine going through a jar of old change and suddenly spotting something unusual. Maybe you see that doubled ear. Maybe you find an off-center strike. Maybe you spot a penny that looks extra thick or thin. Your heart races. You grab your phone. You look it up online. And then you realize you just found something valuable. That's the thrill of discovery. That's what makes collecting addictive. But the 1984 penny is more than just a collectible. It's a piece of American history. It carries the face of Abraham Lincoln, a president who led the nation through its greatest struggle. It displays the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of unity and remembrance. It represents the shift from solid copper to cost-cutting zinc, a reflection of economic change in the United States. And in the case of the doubled ear error, it reflects human imperfection, a reminder that even machines make mistakes. And sometimes, those mistakes become more valuable than perfection itself. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't shrug it off. Don't toss it aside, especially not a 1984 penny. Hold it close. Tilt it to the light. Inspect the details. What looks like an ordinary coin could be a $1,000 discovery. The difference between trash and treasure is awareness. Somewhere out there, in a drawer, in a jar, in someone's pocket right now, sits a 1984 doubled ear penny waiting to be found. Maybe it's yours. Maybe it's one coin away. So start looking. Search your change. Empty those jars. Ask your grandparents if they have old coins tucked away. Because fortune doesn't always come in gold bars or $100 bills. Sometimes, it comes in the form of a familiar copper coin with an extra ear. The 1984 penny teaches us one powerful lesson. Small things can be worth more than we imagine. All we have to do is look closely enough to see it.